Welcome back, everyone. If Nigeria doesn't want a return to military regimes, as seen in recent coups across Africa, the nation's political elite must begin to respect the country's democratic culture and uphold democratic principles during elections. This was the warning given by the Director General of the National Institute for Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Sulaiman, at the Policy Dialogue on Electoral Security and Inclusive Citizen Participation in Nigeria, which held in Abuja. He said that the Institute is worried about the trend of manipulating elections using insecurity, warning that lack of faith in Nigeria's electoral process by the electorate could lead to anarchy. Conversations at the meeting revolved around the high level of voter apathy in elections across Nigeria, but especially at the Anambra elections, and heavy military presence, which the Director General says cannot be replicated during a nationwide general election. Take a listen to him at that event.
Whether you want stability in our electoral process, whether you want democracy to stay, to remain with us, whether you don't want the military to come back again, it depends on all of us as a people. Nobody should be under the illusion that the era of military is over. What is happening in Africa is a worrisome development. In Sudan, in Mali, in Chad, is a worrisome development. It could snowball onto us in this country. So, if you don't want it, and we wouldn't want it, and we don't pray for it, it's a matter of it's a reflection. It's going to be a reflection, a function rather, of our attitude to democratic issues and electoral issues. So the point I'm making is this: we, as Nigerian politicians, the political class in this country, they must be worried about the situation. They must inculcate the finance and a modern political culture, the political culture that emphasizes inclusiveness, that emphasizes participatory democracy, that tend to respect the wishes of Nigerian people. Imposition at a level of party politics, of candidates, will not help anybody. Judiciary giving out, determining who become the governors, and president will not help anybody. Nigeria must be allowed to choose their leader.
That is Professor Abubakar Sulaiman. He then joins us now in the studio to discuss further on this subject. It's very important, the sustenance of our democratic process. Thank you so much, Prof, for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good evening.
You are afraid that what is happening in some part of Africa might come on this shop. A lot of people have said it won't happen. It can't happen in Nigeria. But you said on the sideline of that event that we should be worried.
We should be worried. No country is immune to it. Our attitude, our conduct, our disposition to the ideal of democracy is something that calls for serious concern. We had it in Zimbabwe in 2017. We have it in Guinea, in Mali, in Sudan. We don't pray for it in Nigeria.
Those are smaller countries.
That's why we don't pray for it in Nigeria.
Can it ever happen in Nigeria? It's 21 years or so since Nigeria returned to democratic rule.
I do not pray for it. Nobody pray for it.
Well, are there signals towards that?
But the signal, the signpost, the warning signal is there for us to be careful of. We have a president that is so humane, that is so sincere, that want to believe that the electoral rules should be respected. But we have at the subnational level some political actors and elites who believe that it must be do or die in their ascendancy to power. If that attitude or that political culture continue, we should be very careful, we should be worried. And that is why, as an institute, we are sending the warning signal to the Nigerian political elite especially as we are drawing closer to 2023. The Anambra election, yes, the result, it was peaceful, the conduct was peaceful. The presidency did a good job by ensuring that no blood was shed. A result has been given, vote cast, vote announced, Soludo has emerged, but that is not the question. It's not just about the emergence of the governor. That's not the question. The question is, what's the population of Anambra people?
It's about 5 million.
It's more than 5 million.
Yeah, over 5 million.
By the census of 2006, it was 4.1 social million.
Absolutely.
It should be more than 5 million.
Yeah,
and people that determine who now became the governor of Anambra State, they are less than 115,000. That is not democracy. That does not, reflect the true representative of Anambra people. Why are the apathy? The question is, why are Nigerians developing that political apathy? Why are they disenchanted in the electoral process? What is deterring them? What are the issues? I think these are the things that, as analysts, as intellectuals, as think tank of democratic institution, we are worried of. So if we are practicing democracy, which has to do with the government or the government of the majority, whereby the majority decide who rules, majority decide who become the governor, who become the senator, we are saying what obtains in Anambra was not a reflection of the majority. We have 2.5 million registered voters. We have 250 something voters, out of which the person that won the election had 112 votes. Does that suggest true representative of Anambra people? So our question, our worry is like, where we have just 10%, or less than 11% of the registered voter voting for the new man at the end of affair in Anambra. That is not democracy.
But that's not the fault of the man who
I'm not. The question, Prof. I've just said one thing now.
The question, Prof.
Give the kudos to presidency. Give the kudos to the military, the police. Give the kudos to INEC. But the question is, why are the Anambrans not coming out to vote? Why did they refuse? It should concern us.
There is a trend. In the last 4 years ago, it was 24.4% of voter turnout.
Yeah.
It went deeper than it was 10% the last time. I mean, this election. And the question, you look at what preceded the day of the election, the weeks before the election, months before the election.
Yeah.
In fact, some people, analysts have said, they were even surprised that 10% of people came out for this election because of the security threat in that region.
So the question now arises, if by 2023 or by next year, we don't pray for it, we have relative peace now. We have threat to security in Northwest, threat to security in Northeast, in Southwest, everywhere. What happens? How do we conduct election? How do we ensure that people that comes out as our candidates, as our governors, as the president, are true reflections of the wishes of Nigerian people?
Is it not the psychology?
Security?
Yeah, the psychology of the voter, Prof.
Yeah.
For them not to come out, why are they not coming out? That's a big question.
That's the question I'm asking too. They are not coming out, one, because the environment itself is anarchical in nature. Some of this insecurity, some are, so to speak, a reflections of some problem, crisis within the polity. But again, you see the politician at work. Preceding election, at times they know how to instigate crisis, how to fuel crisis, how to make things difficult, how to scare electorate, how to send the signal to them that this election, if you don't have the wherewithal, don't come out. And when that happens, the incumbent governor take advantage. Because it's only the incumbent governor that has Senate, he has senator, he has House of Rep, he has House of Assembly, he has commissioner, their family want to come out. to oil, where they're getting their daily bread from. So people that do not have any stake as such, that do not have people in government, let me just say, they will develop that passive attitude to it. Where there is a state of anarchy, violence, either man created or God created, incumbent governor or whoever take advantage of that situation. And now I'm saying we are worried in the institute. National Assembly too is worried that we have to stem the tide of insecurity. We have to identify the various non-state actors that are behind it. Even though it's a bad signal for 2023 election, this is where we are going. What obtained in Anambra is not a good omen. It was peaceful, but it sent away the people that needed to vote, the electorate. 10% of the entire vote cast is not a good development. This is not the republic or the kind of democracy we all yearn for, we pray for. And by the time the political actors see this as a leeway to scare opponents, to scare electorate, to take advantage of situation, that will become a new culture, going forward. That we should be wary of.
About 2.4 million voters that's what is obtainable in Anambra State. Just about 10% of that figure came out for accreditation. Another 5% or so were rejected votes. So that also cut down so we had just about 90% or so, or 95% of the entire accredited voter that had their vote count. Is that substantial enough to worry you too? A 5% that their vote didn't count based on maybe void votes or violence or whatever.
You see, when you operate under, a tense environment, you are not sure of the police behind. You see a policeman in front. You see a soldier man in front. You are not at alert. How you behave sanely. You are not at your best. There must be conducive environment. When talk of election itself is a process. It's a process that starts from the pre-election period, the election proper, and the post-election period. It's like going to war. When a war does not start and ended the day you get to the battlefront, it started with your level of preparedness. How do you take care of your family? How do you make sure your family are well fed? What are those, psychological variables permeating into your decision-making process? It matters. So the same thing applies when it comes to election process.
The development of our electoral process. Look at it, election in 1998, 99, elections in 2000 and 2001, 2011, 2015, 2019. Are those enough development? Have we come to a point where we've gotten to a starting stage to give the voter, like one of the guests earlier said, he got a point in time that a sitting president said the election that brought me to office is flawed or was flawed, But can we say that our electoral process has improved credibly? Because analysts have also said that the credibility of the process is also an encouragement for the voter to come out.
You see, let me say this without any fear of contradiction. There's a good development coming up in this country. And when that development is coming from the National Assembly, you see the governor resisting it.
And what's that?
People talk about direct primary, for instance. This is a process whereby the right set of people emerge from the political party within. That is transparent enough. That is inclusive enough. That is the true reflections of democracy in the real sense of it. Because most of the litigation we're having after election has to do with internal, process of, bringing up a candidate. But you see governors saying no to it. So while some people are trying to develop or construct a building, some are trying to pull it down. And all these things are elitist in nature. It's not Nigerian people, the masses, the electorate. It's not those students, it's not those youth, it's not those women, it's not those babas and, al-majiris that goes there to vote. It's the elite who want to hold on to power at all costs, especially at the state level, with due respect to governance. So what to talk about, improvement on our electoral process. Improvement in terms of legislative framework, in terms of policy framework. But when it comes to practicability or ensuring sustenance of what we call this policy to sustain the system, you see some other characters all over trying to resist. We see a president before now that said, yes, I will give you the best. Mr. President now, Muhammad Buhari, is doing the same thing, that I will give you the best electoral, I put the best electoral system in place. But you see some governors at the state level saying, no, we don't want it. And we are living in a situation where in this country today, the governor tend to have the whole sway when it comes to a certain authority. So the point I'm making, Shehu, and you have to get it early, that Nigerian elite, we must be very careful. With due respect to Mr. President, Mr. President has done his own. He has done his own. He has ruled this country once, twice. It's almost the third time, so to speak. Is trying to put in place a legacy that will endure forever. But the state governors and some other subnational political actors, we must be wary of what we are doing. Our conduct, our attitude, our disposition, our culture. These are culture that are inimical, to democratic development in this country. But, and that is our fear at the institution.
Yeah, because some people don't believe that the president has done all it needs to do. For example, at the National Consultative Front, they are calling on the United States Secretary of State, is due to visit Nigeria, to intervene and prevail on the president to assent to the Electoral Amendment Bill when it gets to its table. Based on this debate that we're seeing over direct and indirect primaries, do you have any fear that that bill might sail through?
The National Assembly has done their own. Thank God the governor could not even influence the various senators and members from National Assembly to do their biddings. Muhammad Buhari, that I know, will send that bill. And I want to believe that.
You predict so?
I predict, and I envisage that one. He will send that bill.
Considering what we have seen as history on similar situations.
Like what?
The last time he wasn't assented to.
Which one?
The last amendment to
the Eighth Assembly. The Eighth Assembly, we have to look at things from a contextual point of view. That time they had issues, so many issues that time which I wouldn't want to go into. But we have a smooth sailing process now with the Ninth Assembly. I want to believe that Mr. President will send the electoral, act bill. I want to believe that.
And if it does, do you believe so much in that law?
To a large extent. Yeah, a lot of concession we're giving on the in-transmission, for instance. A lot of concession we're giving on the issue of direct primary. Who is afraid of direct primary? Who is afraid of transmitting, votes electronically? Who is afraid of the various innovations and revolution put in place by the National Assembly? Who is afraid of that? If the governors are afraid of that, too bad for Nigerian democracy. A situation where governors take charge of the various political parties is not a good omen for this country, and we must say it point blank. Give back to Nigerian people democracy. Let them decide whoever they want, as governors, as senators, as reps.
Isn't it an agreement in the political sphere that the governors are the leaders of the parties in their different states?
That is their convention. It's not.
But can you blame them if they're a convention that gives them the toga of authority?
When I say convention, I don't mean by by own.
It's an unwritten
rule.
It's an agreement
document.
Yes.
You understand? Nobody asks them. Nobody gives them that power. They confer the power on themselves.
Or the system does. Governor comes.
Whichever way you look at it, people make up the system.
Is it not the same way that the president in the political party naturally assumes the leadership of the party?
They do that, but it's not that pronounced under this government. It's not pronounced under Buhari government as such. But again, if that is a trend in Nigeria, too bad for our democracy. And that is the warning. That
so
we
the
should
party
not,
leadership must take charge.
Over-personalize, the system, whereby everything that comes in terms of reasoning, in terms of policy, in terms of decision, revolve around just one person. And I'm saying, under this government, especially at the top level, Muhammad Buhari has not really, portrayed such leadership traits in the last 6 years.
So
be fair to him.
You prefer his leadership style, political leadership style?
For democracy to
thrive,
the way
he has handled...
For democracy to thrive, for democracy, we are talking of democracy now. If democracy is actually government of the people, as we talk about, whereby the base, the masses, the people determine to a large extent who comes to power, who their candidate is, I think that style to me for democracy is okay. Not a regimented leadership who want to program things in line with his own dictates.
On a final note, just in a few seconds, if you can give us your party in short, and I'd like to you to be in this direction. You send a warning to the political elite. As a party in short, the threats that you have raised, the warning that you have raised, what must they do to ensure that our democracy is sustained and the unity of this country is also sustained?
What they must do is to make sure that they imbibe the culture of true democracy, the political culture of gives and take. This over-centralization of power on governance, on political class holders or office holders is not a good omen for this country. And nobody, as I said, nobody should be under any illusion that the men of the barrack will not misbehave over our dead body. We don't pray for it. So if we want our democracy sustained, if we want democracy to thrive, if you want stability in our democracy and want Nigerian people to enjoy the dividends of democracy, our political class must do the right thing. It's not the way and manner weapons are being, assessed by no state actor is something that calls for serious worries. And the military might take advantage of that.
The military will not come. They don't have a place. Their own role is to do their job.
We don't pray for it.
Our democracy, our civil rule must stay and we must develop it. But thank you for sending the warning and the signals that we need also to uphold our democratic process and, of course, the unity of this country. Thank you so much, Professor Abubakar Suleiman, for joining us tonight. The Director General of the National Institute of Legislative and Democratic Studies, Professor Abubakar Suleiman. Thank you so much, everyone, for watching. This is Alpha. We can go on the program tonight. I'm Sean Kimale. Bye for now.